Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Now that it's proven to be 95% effective.
Wait, 95%? Oh, Moderna?
Now that it's proven to be 95% effective in preventing coronavirus infection, with the only notable adverse effect being fatigue, the vaccine from Pfizer.
Pfizer? Oh, they upped it. 95% effective.
Pfizer and BioNTech is expected to be fast-tracked for approval by the Food and Drug Administration. The companies say they're prepared to crank up production of millions of doses immediately upon receiving the FDA's green light.
Huge news. So Pfizer, the data has come out and they're pouring through it, but it isn't 90% effective. It is 95% effective. And in people over the age of 65, it is 94% effective. That's awesome. It's great news. It's everything we need. It's everything we want to hear. It's time to get this bad dog pumped up. It's time to get our lives back to normal. It's time to start living again and not living in fear, living day to day in the usual stuff that you worry about. Bills. Does he like me? Does she like me? My God, the kids are driving me crazy. I got to go to soccer practice and we got to go over here for a kid's recital. You know, the normal stuff. Not whether or not, did I touch a handle that's going to kill my grandma in 3 weeks? Did that happen? I felt like that happened. So this is great. So they are doing everything they can to get to it as fast as possible, which is awesome. You've got to love that. So phase 3 is now done. It's dusted. That's great. They'll apply soon. The difference between Moderna, which they said this week, oddly enough, was 94.8% effective. Now they've raised them one, and this is like watching The Price is Right. What did he say? He said 94.8. Well, ours is 95. The difference between the two, and producer Anthony and I were talking about this earlier, and I love this, is the fact that the special stuff you need for the Pfizer one. So Pfizer, you need a special refrigerator. It's like getting an Apple phone, right? You can only go to the Apple store. There's no open source. It's got to be built specifically for Apple. So what that means is it's minus 95, I think, is what you have to keep it in the refrigerator. So you have to have special stuff to store this. And Anthony's all, do you think it's like when you go to the grocery store? Because Anthony used to work at Trader Joe's a long time ago. Where like the fresh stuff comes in and it's in the back and the old stuff's at the front. Where Moderna, you could put it right next to your ham sandwich in the refrigerator. It's going to be fine. Both of them are 2 shots. Little fatigue, maybe a little headache, a little fever, but that is great news. That leads to us getting back to a normal life. It's not going to happen tomorrow. I have a feeling they'll probably get approval sometime next week, which will be great for Thanksgiving. And they'll probably start rolling it out sooner rather than later. Don't be surprised if the first, second, third week, of December, you start to see this thing popping. You're going to see doctors. You're going to see a bunch of different people getting it, which is huge news. Here's the other good news that went really untouched yesterday, but we, having an eagle eye on the Chad Benson Show, will touch it. Latest study about the immunity to this. Maybe for decades. Maybe for decades. So the difference is if you've gotten this thing and you've fought it off, they think it's very similar to SARS. They're still studying people 17 years after the SARS virus who still have immunity to the SARS virus. They've built up an immunity. How long it'll last, they don't know. But some people are thinking this right here could be very similar. Because what they're showing is, even though you may no longer test for the antibodies, essentially they're sleeping, they're dormant. If something was to happen, your body would fight it off, which is awesome. All that being said, we're still seeing spikes across the country. And guess what? There are issues. Big time. People are just sick and tired of it. They're fighting back. They're pushing back. Rand Paul.
Biden's talking more about a lockdown. This is absolutely why he's going to be a terrible president. If we get him, he's going to ruin the country. Lockdowns don't work. And in fact, all of the evidence on mandatory masks show that they don't work either. There's about 10 different countries or venues, maybe 20, that instituted mandatory masks. And every one of them, to a T, the infection rate or the COVID rate went up after the mask mandate.
And look, is there something to that? Look, I can get you 20 different studies that'll tell you 20 different things. That's the reality of it. Do masks work? Psychologically, for a lot of people, it work. Do you remember after 9/11? And then everybody's like, oh, we're going to have the TSA. So we have the TSA. Can we please just be honest? Do you think that big lady over there and that little scrawny guy are stopping anybody who wants to do something? Do you really believe that? It's a placebo effect. Makes us all feel good. Makes us all feel good. For every one gun or something they catch, how many of those things get through? You hear about it all the time. It makes people feel secure. And studies have shown that mask mandates at this time, because of the pandemic, make people feel better about being able to go and leave the house. Do I think it's effective? It might cut down on some stuff, but I listen to, what the people are saying. And people say, well, masks work. Why don't doctors? The mask that you're wearing that you bought at Old Navy is not the same thing the doctor's wearing. Can we all agree on that? Can I get an amen? It's not. I don't know how many times I've seen ads for fashion mask. Fashion mask is not the same thing. How many of you are wearing the same mask you've been wearing for months? You've washed it maybe once. Producer Phil, I'm sure you wear a mask every once in a grand while.
I do.
And how many times have you washed it?
Never. I use the disposable ones.
Oh, see, use disposable ones. There you go. But it's not an N95. It's not the same thing the doctors are using and the nurses are using. But there's a psychological effect, and that's fine. Do I think it cuts down on some? It might. Absolutely. Because I can find studies that say it does. But are we talking about the same mask? That I don't know. But Rand Paul was right about this.
This is just showing that, man, really all of these mitigation strategies, washing your hands, staying 6 feet apart, they really don't work, frankly. Virus is insidious. It does what it's going to do. The only thing that's going to stop it is either enough immunity among individuals in the community or a vaccine. But this idea that we're going to have to stay inside and, Cuomo and all these people saying we can't have Thanksgiving and we can't see other people, it's ridiculous. It's wrongheaded. It's not based in science. And all of the data actually contradicts that man is doing anything to stop this virus at this point.
We say it here all the time. I want you guys to pay attention. We're actually going to have some merch, and this will be one of the things. Producer Phil, remind everybody about nature.
Nature will mess you up.
Mess you up. Nature does what nature does. Dr. Fauci, at the beginning of this, says, at the end of this, at some point in time, the virus is going to do what the virus is going to do. And that is the reality of it. We're finding now that a good majority of people that are catching this are catching it in places like the home, the hospital. Yeah. So what do? Well, you only go to the hospital now if you have COVID? Well, that's silly. You don't go home? You live in the yard? Well, Chad, you're being foolish. No, we can be as precautious as we possibly can. But we also have to realize when they talk about community spread, it's in the community. Now, what we're not talking about is the T-cell immunity, the fact that maybe as this thing continues to spread, that people are building up a certain immunity of exposure to it, that your body fights off automatically without you having to catch it. Vitamin D is shown to be huge. How many of you out there are taking vitamin D? Probably not a ton. Look, we've got to face this thing head on. I've said from the beginning we need to learn how to live with it, through it, and around it, and I think we'll do that. The vaccine is coming, but it's not going to be by the end of December everybody's got the vaccine, and not everybody's going to take the vaccine. It's great that Pfizer and Moderna are going to roll this thing out. People can ask me, will you take it? Yeah, I'll take it. I got no problems with it. Zero problems with it. Now, I already think I had this. My doctor thought I had this already when this thing first started to happen. I was sick for, I think it was February, March. I was in California. Both my son and I got sick about a week or so after we went to a Chinese New Year's festival in San Diego area. And I was sick I felt a little under the weather for 2 days. I remember I got home Friday night and I said, I'm going to go to bed. And I went to bed, and Saturday I said, I'm just going to stay inside. I'm going to relax. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to sleep all day. I slept till Sunday, basically. Had a bit of a fever. I definitely had a fever. That was really bad. Everything kind of tasted off for me. I was very lethargic, and then the next day I felt semi-okay, and by Monday, Tuesday, I was back to normal, and I was living my life. And I'd had the flu before, so I recognized that. And because of the toe thing, because my toes had bruises and nastiness on them, and there was no reason for that, my doctor's like, probably. But by the time I took the antibody test, which was the first one, he said, you're well past where you should take this. You need to take this after a certain amount of days. And I was about 60 days past that to really pick it up. So, but I'll take the vaccine. I think most people will probably do that. But we also have to understand that we shouldn't live our lives in fear. We can't live our lives indoors, and we can't stop surrendering things to the state or the federal government of our liberties and freedom. If you want to have 12 people over at your house and you're an adult, do it. Sorry. Do it. Even if 15 people, do it. This is insane. It really is. And the fact that so many people bend over and say, okay, whatever you want, government, is nuts. It's nuts. What's Rand Paul know? He's only a doctor. Who's an eye doctor, Chad? It's totally different. I think they study everything. He just didn't get to medical school, and they're like, I'm only going to study the eye. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text Zip Program. Love hearing from you. HelloFresh. #1 meal kit in America. How's it work? Simple. You order HelloFresh. You go to HelloFresh.com, Benson90. I'm going to tell you why you can use that code, right? Because you save $90 and free shipping. So you go there and then you choose. Do you want low calorie? Do you want the family option, which is, kind of the meat and potatoes and just that kind of that family option. It's great. And then you have a choice of vegetarian. It's up to you what you do. You get 22 chef-curated recipes delivered to your door. Contact-free, sourced from growers close by, so everything's fresh, hence the reason they call it HelloFresh. And then you choose. You say, hey, you know what? I'm sick and tired of going to the pantry and then going to the refrigerator and looking in, I don't know what to make tonight. Holidays. We've already got enough stress. Take all that away. That's one less thing to stress about. With HelloFresh, you say, we're going to do this. You've got the recipe card. It's even got pictures. And within about 25 to 30 minutes, depending on how much, sometimes less than that, at 20 minutes, you have the food ready to roll, sitting down and starting to eat it. It is awesome. Save big, about 40% versus shopping at the grocery store, and there's no food waste compared to everything else where you have to overcook everything. It's portioned perfectly. Right now, you go to HelloFresh.com. They have a Black Friday sale. Takes all the stress and worry about everything. You spend more time with your family and friends this holiday. Use promo code Benson90, $90 off and free shipping right now. HelloFresh.com, code Benson90 to save those $90. HelloFresh.com, promo code Benson90, save $90 off and free shipping. Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
Shares of Boeing moving higher. It is official. The FAA has officially ungrounded the 737 MAX. This means that after 617 days, when airlines, leasing companies were not allowed to fly the plane at all, even if they wanted to, now, once they make adjustments in terms of the software for the flight control system, as well as modifications to pilot training, they will be able to put the MAX back into service. Now, the soonest we expect that to happen is the end of December. American Airlines has a flight scheduled, I think, for December 29th.
Oh, look at that. It's all happening now. So you got the vaccine, and now you have the Boeing MAX ready. Remember this? They had incidents. And then you found out that there was a bunch of craps. The FAA and Boeing just skirted over things. There was worries and concerns and software issues.
Following fatal crashes in Indonesia and Ethiopia that killed 346 people. Investigators have cited multiple factors. Faulty airspeed indicators that fed bad data to the plane's computer, causing a software system called MCAS to put both planes into a fatal nosedive. Pilot error contributed to both crashes. Boeing made multiple design errors, and the FAA failed to properly oversee design and manufacturing. A congressional investigation determined both crashes were preventable.
Of course they were. Absolutely. Both of them were preventable. Remember, when you buy an airplane, you're buying, it's like going in and designing your own house. Okay, this is what we want. And you're buying the shell and the engines and everything else you design. And there were issues with the software and the training of the pilots who didn't quite understand the updated software. It was above their pay grade, and that caused issues. And some of the companies didn't have the right things for the airplane that would help with the software. The training wasn't very good. It was a recipe for disaster. But they're now going to fly it. And I'm asking people today, I want to hear from you guys. Would you rather take a vaccine first or hop on the Boeing 737 MAX? One lady's like, I'll take the vaccine as long as it's FDA approved. Phil pointed out something. Well, this was FAA approved. We're not just talking about somebody on the street handing you a vaccine. We're talking about, like, you go to your doctors, and they're pretty familiar with it, and they'll give you a vaccine. That's what we're talking about. Maybe Walgreens, CVS, nationwide, it's been licensed out, and everybody has the opportunity to sell you the vaccine. So that would be something, I would think. How are you going to act if you go and you get the vaccine? Are you going to act differently? Are you going to be a little bit more nonchalant, if you will? You're going to walk around going, I need to wear the mask. All right? I don't want the mask anymore. I got the vaccine. I would want to do that, but I don't know because I don't go anywhere. But I think if you got the vaccine, you should be able to not wear your mask. I think that would be that should be one of the things. And you should get a shirt that says, I got the vaccine, I don't have to wear a mask. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson shows your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. We're lazy, super lazy. We have set a record for laziness. Wait till you hear this. It's pretty spectacular, actually. It is. In fact, it's so spectacular, it might cause you to not do anything but get up today and run because you feel ashamed for the laziness. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is an unmitigated success, and we should acknowledge that the Moderna vaccine was done with funds from Operation Warp Speed, and the Pfizer one has funding when it comes to the distribution and manufacture. And I just think it's important that people working so hard, Moncef Slaoui and the others, get credit for this. And President Trump was the one who okayed it.
Absolutely. That's a person. You guys could probably fall off your seats. That is a person by the name of Jake Tapper saying, yes, you know what? The president does deserve credit for the way that he's handled this. And we may look back in 10 years, and I think we will, and we will say to ourselves, we'll know a lot more, and we'll say, you know what? We could have done a lot more. We could have done much more. We missed on this thing. We may look back in 10 years ago, it wasn't a lot Trump could do. And the fact that he fast-tracked this and got this thing through, the fact that he removed so many of the hurdles and obstacles that were in everybody's way, that tends to be in everybody's way. You ask a doctor right now and scientists who work on things like this, and they will tell you, if the government got out of our way, could you imagine how far and fast we could go in doing things? That's not going to happen. But it is pretty amazing. It really is pretty amazing. And if you're going to blame Trump for all the failures, and I don't blame Trump for all the failures, my biggest issue with Trump and the coronavirus is the way that he's dismissed it and or ignored it at times and just given up. That has been my biggest issue. That has been a huge issue. I never blamed him for it, and I never thought he could solve any of these problems. I think as individuals and being in a country where we have liberties and as us as individuals live in individual states, and those individual states will do the things that they think are best for their constituents, their residents. People living in those states. So I never blamed him for everything. I just always got pissed when he said, well, it'll be gone by May. It'll be gone by April. It'll be gone by this. It'll be gone by that. Well, you know what? People poo-pooed and laughed at him when they said, oh, yeah, there'll never be a vaccine within this year. You got to think. And guess what? Not only is there a vaccine, we're going to have two, most likely, get FDA approval through emergency authorization in the coming days. And we'll start rolling this thing out before the end of the year. So we started the year with no disease, no virus. By March, April, it was here. By May, it was here big time. They were working on it from jump. And here we are now, heading into Thanksgiving, just 8 days away. And we'll probably have two of those. And that was on Trump's watch. So if you're going to blame him, you got to give him credit.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the pace of medical innovation has been forever changed. 3 months. January 11th is when they got the sequence of this virus. By March 16th, 2 months later, shots were going into arms as part of these clinical trials. That pace, it typically takes, years to really get these vaccines approved. It'll be done within a year. So that is worth celebrating. And now we have some early data to be very optimistic about.
Yeah. And I look. And you cheer the scientists. You cheer Dolly Parton. For those of you guys who did not know, Dolly Parton's foundation gave $1 million. She was friends with one of the epidemiologists and the people working on this from Vanderbilt, and she threw $1 million, her foundation, at this. So let's cheer it for Dolly. Let's cheer it for Dolly. But it was under Trump's watch. And this is the problem I have with modern politics, and we'll touch on that in a moment, which both sides see their team as only winning and will never give the other side credit. If this was under Biden's watch or Obama's watch, this would be the Obama vaccine. This would be the Biden vaccine. It's under Trump's vaccine, and it's all about the scientists and doctors. Yes, they're the ones that you give a majority of the credit to. Absolutely. But you also have to give credit to the Trump administration.
So all of the scientists, everyone behind this, all the way up to President Trump and Vice President Pence, congratulations on this great accomplishment. We're obviously waiting for more news and for the vaccine to be available.
Yeah. And I think that's absolutely the right thing. You've got to give credit where credit is due. When people say, well, if like here, our governor out here in Arizona is going to speak today. It has been, I don't even know. He's the last governor to speak, by the way, after the election. By the way, Guam and Puerto Rico, their governors have spoken. But he's the last one to speak after the election. A lot of that has to do with the fact that Trump, I guess, dressed him down the other day, thought he would deliver Arizona for him and didn't. That's not his job. Trump, that's your job to deliver these states. That's not the governor's job to do that. Secondly, he's pretty much ignored the coronavirus, kind of like Trump has for the last several weeks, especially in the run up to the election, because the last thing he wanted to do was to crack down harder and make it seem like, oh my goodness, this thing is bigger than it is. And these are the problems I've had with Trump. Absolutely. 100%. But getting out there and getting in front of things is great. Being present, and that's where Trump over the last several weeks has not been. It's been all about the election, and he's not been present in this. When you find out what a leader's all about? In tough times. Right? Coaches coach in easy time. That's the easiest thing to do. It's the easiest thing to do. When things are successful, that's easy to run that. It's when things get hard, decisions get hard. Your hardest decisions will be in the toughest times. Now, I think Trump hasn't done a bad job. But I also think he did what you're supposed to do, which is leave it to the states. Well, you can't leave it to the states and you can't leave it to individuals. No, you can. If you're an idiot and you put yourself in bad situations, no matter what is going on, whether it's whether you're in a situation where it's just a normal time and you're deciding, hey, I'm going to go free diving here and I'm going to tie chunks of meat to me and dive into the ocean where I know there's great white sharks, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. But as an individual, you have the right to be an idiot. And it's been a struggle because we have done what you're supposed to do. You leave these things to the states. The states then pass these on to the individual. And we're supposed to handle that. And we haven't done a good job at that. We have floundered on more than a few occasions at that. But I don't know about you. I don't want any more lockdowns. I don't want any more shutdowns. I think you should allow people to make their decisions and choices. Well, the mask mandate, let there be a mask mandate. By the way, why do I have to have a mask mandate? Because otherwise you wouldn't wear a mask? No, I understand the gravity of the situation. I understand that I can't get into your store or your establishment if I don't wear a mask. So there you go. It's nuts. It is. But I will give credit where credit is due. And yes, the scientists, the doctors, everybody across the globe that is working on this, the way that the government regulators have gotten out of the way and how hard they have pushed this thing is phenomenal. And the steps that we have made along the way as far as science and technology is tremendous. And on top of that, yes, this is on Trump's watch, so he deserves credit. And people don't want to hear that. And part of the reason people don't want to hear that is because we have an us and them mentality. And that is sad, but true.
A large majority of Americans are thoroughly convinced that our political system is fundamentally broken, that we as a people are tragically divided, and that Washington is completely dysfunctional. Most of us are sick and tired of the angry, divisive politics. Americans believe in civility and pragmatism. They think straight talk is more valuable than empty rhetoric. These are the things that my party is going to have to focus on if we want to win national elections again.
That's Larry Hogan. He's a Republican. He's the governor of Maryland. And the reality is it's right. I don't want to hear political speak. I don't need you to talk for 45 seconds and not say anything. Just tell me what's going on. But we're also living in a world where we're conditioning people to want to hear what makes them feel good rather than the truth. And that's a sad, sad thing.
Americans are not as divided as our politics and social media would suggest. The problem is not the American people. The problem is that politicians think the only way to get elected is to feed the extremes, to fire up the base, and that the only way to govern is through winner-take-all combat. The extreme voices that dominate social media, cable news, and talk radio only represent a tiny sliver of Americans on the far left or the far right.
And he's 100% right. We're not extreme here. That's why I get yelled at by both extremes. I have a lot of just people who are liberal or just regular Democrats, and they'll say, I like listening to your show. You're level-headed. You deliver, stuff. You're not in, you don't come out and say stuff that's just, because I don't. It's easy to do that. It's easy to pick something and to go completely overboard because it makes noise. And people like that, so they're drawn to it. But it doesn't mean it's effective, and it sure in the hell doesn't mean it works. I love watching, I play a lot of golf, but I have a couple favorite on YouTube where I'll sit here when I'm doing work and I'll watch them. And I was watching yesterday, and I watched these guys, GM Golf, these kids out in Texas. They played against the world long driver, Kyle Berkshire, right? And this guy's a good golfer. But he pounds the ball, 450. He's the world long drive champion. And they played a game against one another, and they played this skinny kid named Garrett who's a golfing machine. And you know what he did? This kid beat him. Doesn't hit it 450 yards. He just is level-headed, plays the game he knows how to play. It's not an extreme. It's what it is. We don't do that anymore. The only thing we want to see now is people hit the ball long. We don't care who wins, right? As long as we're loud and we make noise. And that's not a good place to be.
Over 70% of the rest of us belong to the exhausted majority. People who are fed up with politics, who feel forgotten by both political parties and ignored by Washington. Most Americans want the same thing. Leaders who will work together to find bipartisan solutions. No one of us has all the answers or all the power. They want a discourse that tolerates contrary views among a diverse citizenry without turning political adversaries into enemies or doubting their patriotism.
And that's what we have. Yesterday, there was a 3 or 4 second film clip of, Lindsey. Here's the insanity of the world we live. Lindsey Graham is being told that and being, questioned that he has somehow done something to this election by alluding to the Secretary of State in Georgia that he shouldn't count certain votes, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And then on the floor, he's walking by Kamala Harris and he gives her a fist bump and a pat on the back, and says something like, congratulations, VP-elect. And people are like, oh, see, both attack him. And that's the insanity. You can't have conversations. You can't have meaningful dialogue. And you sure in the hell can't come to any kind of solution if you live in the extremes. You just can't. Because the extremes are not interested in any of those things. They just want to be louder than the other side. Right and wrong, truth, facts mean very little. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. I'm going to get to it. People are texting, when are you going to talk about the laziness? We got the laziness coming. Rough Greens. Speaking of lazy, my dog Doodle was lazy. And mostly because he's a dog. Let's be real. They like to run around a little bit, but lazy is always good. But he had a lot of issues. And we started giving Rough Greens 7 months ago. It's not dog food. You just sprinkle it on your dog's food. It's a supplement. It's got vegetables, vitamins, minerals, probiotics. It's got omega-3, 6, 9. It's got all of these amazing things that takes your dog's food from being dead food to living food. And those nutrients and things have changed him. His fatty tumors, his arthritic hips, they don't bug him anymore. He is super active. And it's because of Rough Greens. I swear by it. Now, they're giving you the opportunity to try something. 30-day supply. It is free. You pay for shipping. That's it. It's 30 days. It's a $30 value. You pay for shipping. How easy is that? When's the last time you really got something for free? Not. Come on. When's the last? And something that works. I swear by it. My dog swears by it. All of my animals do. Yes, even some of the vegetarian lizards I have. I sprinkle it on theirs. Try it for yourself. Try it for your dog. See how much better that does for your dog compared to what you're serving them now. Go to roughgreens.com/Chad, ruffgreens.com/Chad. Get your $30 bag of Rough Greens absolutely free. Just pay for shipping. ruffgreens.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
I usually don't get into politics. As an ordinary suburban housewife, I feel a little disrespected. I teach my children not to name call.
You are a blabbermouth!
Come on, man!
Guys, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum?
Chad Benson.
It's funny. I was talking to my friend last night. I'm like, you've got to go see that socialist thing where that guy's like, can you please keep the chatter to a minimum? That's also the one where we play that thing that says, where the guy's like, can we stop using gendered language? I said, you've got to go watch this. She didn't believe it, so she went and watched it. I think it was in Chicago. It was a few years ago. It was when all the socialists got together to have a meeting. And the first 10 minutes of the meeting were all of them talking about the things that you can't say or do because it would trigger it. And one of the people's like, please, some of my triggers are movement, clapping, noise. You can't make this up. This is a Saturday Night Live skit. That's what's coming out of our colleges. Be prepared, people. Here he is.
And there he goes. After 28 years with a nightly talk show, Conan O'Brien is leaving for another gig, a weekly talk show on HBO Max. His TBS talk show will end next June after a 10-year run. Previously, he hosted The Tonight Show and Late Night with Conan O'Brien for NBC. And while he's leaving TBS, he's not leaving his company. TBS and HBO Max are all part of the Warner Media family.
Yeah, I think he'll do better. I always felt bad because I think he got so screwed out of The Tonight Show. He did. He got just, they torched him and he got The Tonight Show and they took it away from him super fast. And, cause here's the thing, it's niche marketplace now. And the niche marketplace is what is serving all of these late night talk shows. Like, what are they going to do next year when Trump is gone? Curious. It's going to be very interesting. But the niche marketplace he didn't serve it well because he was a little bit more variety act feel. The average American is lazy. New survey shows typical Americans spend 448 hours on the sofa in the past 32 weeks. That's insane. 60% of those who are working from home use the couch as a workstation. 7 in 10 said their perfect night involves spending time on the sofa. We're watching way too much television. It's nuts. Here's something. More than half said they felt stuck with their current couch because it was too expensive to buy a new one. Oh, my God. This is insane. Ordering eat out, 42%. Binge watching, 35%. Board games, 35%. Catching up with a good book, 32%. Translation, this has made us lazy, lazy, lazy. Not a shocker. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet and text the program. If you can, you might be too lazy to even do that. But God bless you for listening. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Now that it's proven to be 95% effective in preventing coronavirus infection, with the only notable adverse effect being fatigue, the vaccine from Pfizer and BioNTech is expected to be fast-tracked for approval by the Food and Drug Administration. The companies say they're prepared to crank up production of millions of doses immediately upon receiving the FDA's green light.
Pfizer, baby, they've upped it. They've revised their 90% to 95%. They look over at you, Moderna, and they say, beat that. That's great news. The question is when. When will it be arriving? That is the question, and I think it will be arriving sooner rather than later. They're ready to start pumping this thing out. All of that being said, as far as you and I, the average folk out there, it may be a few months. I don't think it's going to be April, May. I think you'll have access to it. Doesn't mean people are going to go out and get it right away, but I think you're going to have access to it by, I'd say, March, April. Because at this point, once it's approved, this is all about just mass producing it. How fast, and then once it's mass produced, how fast can you get it out to the places so they can administer it? And what does that look like? It's going to take a little bit, but I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. It's been fast tracked. And then there's the other side of things with the virus itself. I keep asking this question: why in God's name can't we test at home?
Obviously, it's still going to require a prescription, and then we don't know how expensive it's going to be. So there are a lot of challenges, but I think the idea of home tests is terrific, and I want to see a lot more of them.
Dr. Jha right there. Why do I need a prescription for that? I'm curious.
We've had the technology to do this for many, many months. So I'm happy to see the FDA approving this. The problem right now is we don't know how many of these tests will be available, how long it'll take to get the tests out there.
It is insane, right? That it takes stuff sometimes so long, and then you're like, I need a prescription to have a test at home? Are you kidding me? That's nuts. Why do I need a test? Why do I need a prescription for a test at home? Can anybody answer that question? Is there something is it a controlled substance you're sending me? Oh, yeah, by the way, we sent you some meth. What? Why? It would be great to have that. If we're worried about testing, if we're worried about people going out and not getting the test, this is awesome, right? Like, this is a great thing, but I'm still a little confused about why we can't test at home. On the other side, how do you even do it? Would I have to stick something in my nose?
You get this home kit, you swish it around, you put it in a little base, and you get a result that says positive or negative. What's really interesting about this kit is you actually are getting the kit at home, and you get the results at home as well.
Which is a great thing. We need that. That is a win. I'm still curious as to why. So if I have, I'm just trying to go back to what Dr. Shah said. Well, you need a prescription for it. So how does that even work? Like, if I have to go into the doctors to get a prescription for it, why don't I just go into the doctors and get that done? Well, they may offer telemedicine. I just feel like somebody's profiting here, which I have zero problems with. I just think this is the stuff that drives people crazy. We're having another step onto something that we shouldn't be adding a step onto. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Do love hearing from every single one of you. Biden, as far as I still know, is still the president-elect, unless there has been some sort of magical, and we haven't talked much about it because it's done. As far as I'm concerned, until you can prove something in court, and you may, but there's right now at this moment that isn't happening. And I do ask the question is like, okay, what are we doing when it comes to the transition? Because we need to start to see that happen. I think it is important. I do not think for an instant there is going to be any worries about whether or not there's going to be Trump dragged out from the White House or any of that stuff. But I do think at some point in time, it's starting to get a little bit childish that you're not allowing access. And we need to start to see some of this stuff happen. And Trump, at some point, you're going to have to go, all right, I'm going to have to do something.
Mr. President, you're not thinking straight. Someone needs to sit down and have a come to Jesus with you. Your thinking is off. There's something going on. Revenge, sour grapes. It makes you look bad. You're going to go down in history as the childish president who refused to leave the office, who tried to burn the house down on the way out. The people's house, by the way. The house that slaves built.
All right. Well, you're starting to go, as you tend to do. You go off the mark there. And I know that, there are people out there that are still holding out hope that some way, shape, or form that this is magically going to be turned around, and that, that this is, some of the stuff and the lines that they're drawing, and I'll get the Chad, you don't see it because you just don't understand it. You're paid by the liberal think tanks, or it's nuts. The courts, if you've got proof, you show it. Some people think, hold on a second, you wait.
You're assuming President Trump is moving on. I think the president, regardless of whether he's president again or he's Citizen Trump, I think he will continue to play a part in this nation. I look at the number of members who got elected. They got elected under President Trump. President helped them get elected in the process as well. And we expanded the party. So how's the party going to look different? It's going to look broader. It's going to reach more people than it reached before. It's going to expand like we haven't seen.
Yeah, that's a possibility. But is that a Trump phenomenon, or is that a Republican phenomenon where people are looking over and no longer, especially people of color, minorities, are looking around and going, I no longer buy what you're selling us over there in the Democratic Party. So they better start getting this thing going. And I continue to get the pushback by so many people out there who say, Chad, you just don't get it, right? Trump is going to win this thing in court. He's not winning anything in court so far. He is losing over and over again in court. And it's at this point, I just want to see us get it going, because the delay in this, and I can give, and I said it earlier, I'll continue to say it. I give Trump credit for being at the helm of this, whether you like Trump or not. He has been the person that everybody blames. We've also, if you're going to blame somebody, you got to give him credit. It can't be just everything that goes wrong is your fault and everything that goes right is somebody else's fault. And while I haven't been happy with the way that he's come at the coronavirus at times, or better yet, not come at it, and a lack of real kind of any plan whatsoever, and at times just, it'll be gone by this or it'll be gone by that, which he said over and over again, or we will have a vaccine really soon that is ready to roll out, probably in the next, I would say, 2 weeks. We'll also have another vaccine that potentially within the next 3 weeks will be ready to roll out. We need to have this in place so the smooth transition, when it happens, there is no hiccups. There is no delay in getting it to the people.
He's now a member of Joe Biden's coronavirus task force. Dr. Bright, thanks for joining us this morning. President-elect Biden said yesterday that people may die if there's not more coordination between the Trump administration and the Biden transition task force. What isn't getting done now that needs to get done?
It's very important that in light of the good news we're hearing about these new vaccines, and it's really important to understand that there's a lot of work still in front of us to make sure that these vaccines are available for all Americans. We need to coordinate that.
Yeah. And that's what it should be. What you should be doing at this moment in time, if you're Trump, is, and this is where I feel like the sore loserness, childlike behavior is happening, is if you had won, and this was 4 years from now and this was happening, would you be working with the person coming in who is, or would you be saying, no, not until I leave? No, you work with the person. You work with the person. You show up at the inauguration. You work with the person. You work with their staff. You get this out. It's about the betterment of the people. This is not about you. Everybody's made it about you. You've made it about you. At this point in time, I'm over it. I think a lot of people are. It's time to move on. And if you can show it in court, I'll talk about it. Until then, I don't want to talk about it. I want to get this thing smooth, make it happen, get it to the people. So instead of April, May, people starting to get this thing, hopefully February, March, April, it'll be in mass use across the country.
You know that after January 20th, a new administration will come in and a new team will take over that responsibility. So it's important that that new team has all of the information that the current team has, so there's a smooth transition. Lives are at stake here. If we miss this opportunity to coordinate now, we could experience hiccups or delays that really we don't need to see. Americans deserve a smooth transition so we can make sure to save their lives from this pandemic.
110%. Because not only is it saving their lives in potentially health-wise, and I'm not talking, the average person under the age of 55, 0.03, so 0.3%. Under 20, I think it's virtually nil. Flu's deadly. Over 65 or over 55, it's deadlier than the flu, but it's not the destruction that so many people have made out to be. But we need to do this right because it's not just that. It's the lockdowns. It's the threat of lockdowns. It's the lack of confidence in the economy, which is causing people to struggle. It's the fact that schools are closed, and with schools being closed, parents are having to make a choice of who's going to stay home with the kids because they're too young to stay home by themselves. All of those things add up in so many different ways. So we've got to figure this out. And it needs to happen. And if you have proof in courts, show it. Pay for the countdown. Wisconsin says if you want to recount, they said, yeah, you can have a recount. That'll cost you $8 million. So raise the money or pay for it yourself. But I just want to get through this because I want to go to sporting events. I want to go to movies. I want to go out to meals. I want to have a life again where I said the other day, I miss going to my reptile shows. I miss doing any of those things. I miss a lot of this. I miss seeing my son and traveling out to San Diego and spending time with them and seeing my family. It's time for us to get to a position where we start to realize, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it right. He won. We could fight it later. We'll fight it in the social sphere, but let's start growing up. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at me. I'm sure you're going to, you hate the president, Chad. Okay, whatever. I don't love or hate him. You love him. Or you hate him. I don't give him time like that. I'm living my life. Try it. It's fun. You make memories. Speaking of memories, Legacy Box. It's an effortless way of bringing your memories to life. Aging tapes, right? Film. Like film reels, like grandma and grandpa, like it's on film. Yeah, like 8mm. Photos that you have out there, they're old. How about getting them digitally preserved in a modern format, easy to use? Christmas, Hanukkah, it's all here. Now is your chance to really give something to people that will build and preserve memories. It's Legacy Box. All you do is you order. They send you a box. You put all of your old antiquated media in it. Then you send it back. You do it on your time. They're going to digitally archive, preserve, and even sharpen up and make everything look as great as possible. You can follow along as all of this stuff is happening. And then they send it to you with your original media. And you can have it on the cloud, thumb drive, DVD. It's up to you. It is incredible. So if you've got those old things, if you've got things like for me, it's stuff with my dad that I don't have, they're on VHS and other things like that and old tapes, I can bring that to life. And that's what we've sent in. It's amazing. Go to legacybox.com/Benson. Take this chance to do this. 50% off right now. Legacybox.com/Benson to save 50% while supplies last. Legacybox.com/Benson. Chad Benson Show.
You go, boy.
This isn't about right or left. This is just about right and wrong.
Right you are, Chad. The Chad Benson Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? Oh, my Lord, what is trending? Let's take a look, shall we, in the world of trends. Let's go over here. Find out what's trending on the old Google. Lil Wayne, charged with federal gun possession, faces 10 years in prison. Dolly Parton's trending because she threw a few bucks at this thing called the coronavirus vaccine. Not bad. Bitcoin making a comeback, they say. Crypto's finally going mainstream. What? Jack Dorsey, along with several other of the muckety-mucks in the world of the socials, were up there at Capitol Hill, or at least Skyping, and getting talking to by both sides of the aisle yesterday. And he admitted that they handled the Hunter Biden thing very poorly. To say the least. When people ask me, what do I worry about stuff like that. I worry about the censorship. I worry about this Orwellian, bizarre world that we're currently finding ourselves in because of the socials and the free speech issues. I don't worry about, are we going to become Venezuela? I do not worry about that. Right? Those things. But we have to take those things on as individuals. We shouldn't be looking to the government. And part of the reason is because we've got too many stupid people out there, and they feel they need to save us from stupidity. Head on over to Twitter. Oh, ISIS is trending, and the reason is, and this is pretty funny, they're calling everybody who's a supporter of Trump or a MAGA vanilla ISIS. Come on, it's funny. That's funny. That is absolutely funny. That is great. So, but that's what they're calling them. That's trending. Also today trending, Fresh Prince reunion is trending. And people are getting coronavirus where? And they're talking about all the places where you're seeing it. The hospital, homes are two of the biggest spreaders. Gyms are a big spreader as well. But when you think hospital and home, it's like, where are you supposed to go? Maybe the park. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Vanilla ISIS. That's kind of funny. Kind of. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Look, you'd have to be a special kind of stupid not to see the disparate treatment between Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump. I think since he was selected by the managerial elite in the Democratic Party, I think the toughest question that Mr. Biden has been asked is, does he support children and prosperity? And probably the second toughest question is, does he like ponies?
I could listen to John Kennedy all day. He's right, though. Let's be real. Biden, there's no tough questions. There isn't. And some of that's because you know what you're getting with Biden. No, we don't, Chad. This is my favorite thing that I get all the time is I'm fighting. This guy says the other night, my sons and I are having to fight for your freedoms before he turns this into Venezuela. So stupid. It's not going to become Venezuela. It's just not. I don't know who, it didn't stick because the average person, most of you who are open-minded enough that listen to Trump and them say, it's going to be Venezuela. You're like, no, it's not. It's not going to be Venezuela. We're never going to allow that to happen. We are too consumer-oriented. We still love our freedoms. We still love our liberties. We still want to have the opportunity to have prosperity. We're not giving that up for anything. We will fight for that. We have our infighting, and the Civil War is a cultural war, and it's taking place mostly online. And that's real. That stuff, though, that people spew at you, Biden's going to turn us into Venezuela, the Soviet Union. No, he's not. My God. Stop that. Hell, all you have to do is look and see the people he's appointing to his cabinet and find out that the far left's pissed at him because they feel it's just a who's who of corporate people. It's going to be Obama 2.0-ish. That's what he's going to raise our taxes. He might. But if you look at that race out there in Georgia, there's two of them. And Loeffler or Perdue happen to win one of them. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. Why? Why would it? Can't? Mitchell say no. So nothing's going to happen. So I don't think that's going to happen. And especially not right now. You say things to make people, on the left feel good. Oh, we're going to give everybody free stuff. It all sounds great until you have to pay for it. Then you find out you're not getting everybody free stuff. Well, that's a lie. Of course it is. It's politics. The difference is they don't get called on it. Trump has. And call Trump on that. But I also realize I don't believe either of them. And maybe if you come in with an open mind but skeptical, realize that they're not going to be your savior, nor should they be. You should be more responsible for yourself. And the second thing is, even if they want to do something, what is the likelihood of those things ever getting done? But when it comes to what Kennedy said there about the media and the press and the way they've handled him, they have handled him in a much different way.
This is very dangerous for our democracy. Here's a newsflash. Politicians lie. Not always, but sometimes. They hide the truth. Why? Because it helps them hold on to power. And the role of a journalist is to hold those politicians accountable and to ferret out and safeguard the truth. And in doing so, journalists can't pick sides. Otherwise, they're not seeking out the truth. They've got to be equal opportunity a-holes, if you will.
He's awesome. He's right. He does. You think you're really getting the entire story from the New York Times? The entire story from Fox? If you ask me, of all the cable news, now just doing news, who gives you the most balanced of it all? And I'm not talking about the talking head shows. I think you look at Fox and say in the afternoon, they challenge Trump. Trump's pissed off and mad at him all the time. Now, I'm not talking about the Hannitys, the Tuckers, and Laura Ingrams. No, they are all about Trump. I'm not talking about the morning show on Fox. And let's differentiate between what is an opinion head and then where CNN goes wrong, because CNN passed everybody off as these are our anchors. Well, if you're an anchor, you're a news person. You know, we called them in Britain newsreaders. You weren't an anchor, you were a newsreader. Because somebody would write the story, you would read it. But New York Times? I mean, my goodness me. It is insane how far left they are. And the problem is they're in an echo chamber all to themselves, not understanding that, yes, you can leave the Manhattan area and there are other places. Hell, they probably don't even know what happens in Buffalo.
Too many of our journalists have started picking sides, and it will ultimately undermine their profession and democracy, because without truth, there is no trust. Without trust, there is no democracy. It used to be journalists really were equal opportunity jerks. They were tough. They were tough. Didn't matter what your party affiliation was. Their job was to ferret out the truth. Keep the company of those who seek the truth, run from those who already know it. I think many members of the press think they already know the truth.
Yeah. But we've come to a world where feelings matter over facts. And because feelings matter over facts, that is the only thing that matters. You can't question anything socially that may be seen as unwoke or unkind, even if there is truth inside of it, because if somebody's hurt feelings, it's bad. And when that starts to permeate through the world of journalism the way it has, it's sad. It's a very sad thing. That's why I tell you, you're your own best fact checker. But you're only going to fact check as far as, for most people, that you want to test your belief. Most people don't want to test what they believe to be true if it goes against that. And because they think, I've been lying to myself, I've been fooled by something, there's so many things that go, and most people don't want to do that. That makes them uncomfortable. It's good to get uncomfortable. You grow when you're uncomfortable. When you come to the realization, maybe I drink too much, or I eat too much, or I'm lazy, or I maybe, in relationships, it's my fault. And you start examining some of these things. What happens? That's when you have growth. That's when you have growth. So the sad thing is, but we know that these things are skewed. We know that these things, that you're going to go to Fox at night, you're going to find these people. You're going to go over here and you're going to find the likes of Rachel Maddow or Jake Tapper or Cuomo and all of them. And you're going to realize, and if I was I said, Jake Tapper is as fair as any of them. Now, he leans to the left. I think we all know that. But he's as fair as any of them that's out there. But there's not a lot of them anymore. So you've got to find and test your own belief. That's why I said this week, I dare you to take the challenge of going out and researching something that you believe to be absolutely true and just taking a peek over on the other side to find out if this story may not be all that you think it is. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from all of you. Here's a perfect example. Here's a guy, Dr. Scott Atlas, right? He gets destroyed by the left-leaning media, big time. He's just an idiot. He's a boo. Even today, he talked about something, and Stanford's starting to walk back from this and distancing themselves.
You said something that got some attention, and this was about resisting and rising up against some of these new lockdowns and advisories that everybody is hearing about. You said the only way this stops is if people rise up. This was in reaction to Governor Whitmer. You get what you accept. #Freedom Matters. And here's what President-elect Biden said.
They should resist. What the hell's the matter with these guys?
Adding to the list of things I'm not very good at Twitter. I didn't mean anything that people are inferring from that.
Well, of course they're going to run with that. And because that's what it is. Well, resist how? Like armed resistance? You don't need an armed resistance. But if you tell me I can only have 8 people in my house on a holiday, if I want to have 15 or 20, you can kiss my ass. It's my house. It's my home. These are grown people. These are adults. You stay out of my home. You stay out of my car. If I'm in a store or I'm in a public place where you're asking me to wear something, I will. And by the way, we kind of handed that over to him. It's like, okay, we'll wear a mask. I do it because I understand there's a certain sense for a bunch of people out there, the sense that it's a comfort. It may be a placebo effect, but there's a comfort fact to it. But the media, they act as if, well, we need all of these lockdowns and all these. Here's something for you, right? Nature, human behavior, new study says less costly pandemic mitigations actually slow the spread just as well, or if not better, than actual lockdowns. Well, that's impossible. Those people are liars. Lockdowns are not healthy. They're not. And people are starting to understand that because you're seeing the mental health issues. You're seeing people lose their livelihood. You're seeing people fall into deep depressions. You're seeing suicide. You're seeing all kinds of things happening that Trump and a lot of other people said the cure cannot be worse than the disease.
I get emails every couple of weeks from someone who has had a family member commit suicide because of the lockdown. I have people begging me to do anything I can to end the lockdown. And so what I meant, and basically, if you want to change things, you have to have your voices heard. I didn't mean to threaten or incite violence. I just meant it's going to come from the people. The government's not going to end the lockdowns. This is a state issue. It's not a federal issue.
Yeah, which is true. States' rights. That's the beauty of where our founding fathers put this together. So what did they find in the study? Communicating importance of social distancing. They said that's only been marginally less effective than imposing distant measures by law. The reality is you don't have to wear a mask if you're 100 feet away from people. I have news for you. If you are in very little contact with individuals and you wear a mask and you stay socially distant as best as possible, and you somehow still, you hear about this all the time where people will catch the disease or catch the virus. What else are you supposed to do? These draconian, bizarre, Orwellian things, as people are calling them, this ridiculous, from Gretchen Whitmer to Gavin Newsom to Murphy in New Jersey, who are all cracking down in ways where you step up and you're thinking, you're not sorry. If I want to have a dozen people in my house, 25 people, well, that's irresponsible. Whatever. I'm responsible for me. Nobody forces people to do things. Nobody's putting a gun to somebody and saying, you better go to Chad's turkey night. If you don't, No, I wouldn't do that because that's just too many people for me. My senses. Plus, I don't like people in my house. But all that being said, the reality is you can be smart, you can use common sense, and I don't think you need a government official to tell you certain things. Will people still do dumb things? Will people still think it's a hoax? Will people still make poor judgment? Yes. But once again, I remind everybody, we're the only species that continues to protect the dumb, the wounded, the ignorant, whatever you want to call them. The wounded? Yeah. I'm not talking about the people that are in nursing facilities or people that are sick. I'm talking about people that we have to protect them from themselves because they're morons. No other species does that. Right? Like if Steve the gazelle wanders over to the drinking place where there's 65 crocodiles, the other gazelles are like, oh, somebody should go get Steve. No, people are like, Steve's going to find out that was a bad mistake and we're going to move on. Not us anymore. We can be smart. You can use common sense. And what I'll get feedback today from people throughout the day is, Chad, people can't be. That's why we need government to do more. No, that's wrong. Individual liberties are what we should cherish the most, and we should protect those the most. And yes, we can have measures in place to mitigate, but at the end of the day, you should be responsible for you. And if you're a moron and you're an idiot, why do I have to protect you and everybody else? Why do we have to suffer because you're a moron? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Raycon, best earbuds around. You'd be a moron not to get these. See what I did there? So these earbuds are great. And I don't say that, your sponsors say, you know what? I had them before. They were. I told our sales, like, go get them. And let me tell you why. Because I work out hard, because I do a lot. I love, I like my me time. I'm hitting golf balls. I'm playing soccer. But I wanted something where I didn't have to always push the earbuds in or worry about them falling out. And I didn't want any dangling wires or stems because that drives me crazy. You get none of that with these. You get the best sound quality, nice noise isolating fit. It is just otherworldly and a price point that is incredible. Ray J knocked it out of the park. You're going to love these. Holiday season, Christmas, Hanukkah, it's all here. Get a pair for yourself right now. You're going to save 20%. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad. Save big. 20% savings right now. Starting at well under $100. You're going to love, love, love these things. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Set Chad straight. Text the show 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show. I'm a monster.
Rapper Lil Wayne hit with felony weapons charges. It all dates back to December of last year when his private plane was searched by federal agents in Miami. They say they found drugs, guns, and ammo on board, and that Wayne admitted that a gold-plated pistol found in some luggage was his. Problem is, Wayne is on parole and not allowed to have guns. He now faces 10 years in prison if convicted.
Lil Wayne, what are you doing? That is not good for anybody, Lil Wayne. What were you thinking? You weren't. 10 years, man. 10 years. I'm going to throw this out there. All right? Maybe I can be a helper today. If you are a star, if you're an artist of some sort, if you've had run-ins with the law, if you maybe have had issues with contraband and firearms, that when you were on a private plane that you know potentially may be searched, and that potentially the people that are flying you to and fro may radio ahead that there are stuff on the plane, because that could get them in trouble. Maybe you shouldn't do that. Like, maybe if you're going to a concert or somewhere to shoot a video, that you're like, you know what I don't need to bring this time? My arsenal. I'm trying to be a helper. I don't want to be a jerk because I love me some Lil Wayne. Hell of a skateboarder, by the way. If you've never seen Lil Wayne skateboard, he love a skateboard. But I want to be a person that helps. And I do believe that there are things like hire people. If you have enough money for a plane, then you have enough money to have an entourage. And of that, you can have people that are on there, that are there to protect you, who could have firearms and maybe don't have beef with people. That's also something, too, that you can talk about. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Chad Benson Show TV's on the old tube of you. Check it out. It is the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is an unmitigated success. And we should acknowledge that the Moderna vaccine was done with funds from Operation Warp Speed, and the Pfizer one has funding when it comes to the distribution and manufacture. And I just think it's important that people working so hard, Moncef Slaoui and the others, get credit for this. And President Trump was the one who okayed it.
Yes, he did. No, he can't get any kind of credit because he's an awful human being, Chad. No, he can get credit. He absolutely can get credit. Trump will be remembered as chaos and all of this stuff. And let's think about it. We also soften the way that we turn and look back upon, leaders. We do. We soften. We look back and say, it wasn't so bad. This guy wasn't so bad. That guy wasn't so bad. This person wasn't so bad. You look back and you change your stance a little. You start to grow up. You see the world in a much different way. Maybe they got some of that stuff. I think we'll look back and say, yeah, it was chaotic. It was crazy. It was a divisive time. By the way, if if somebody tells me to fight another person or to hate another person, and then they tell him that they should hate me, and then both of us look and laugh, you both need to have something in you to want to do that. People are just giving you the fuel, right? But if you don't have that fire, it doesn't really matter. But I think we'll look back on a lot of this stuff. And I think we'll know a lot more. Well, Monday morning quarterback, well, Trump kind of got it right. Those lockdowns, a lot of the stuff that people were pushing probably weren't all the things that they were cracked up to be. Maybe we overdid it a little bit. Maybe we surrendered too easily to some of the liberties that we have. We let some of these governors walk over some of these people. If you live in some of those states, that's on you. But the vaccine side of it, remember when let's go back, like when this whole thing started. And Dr. Koopa does a really good job of taking us back a ways when it came to some of this stuff. When this whole thing started, this was a long time ago in today's world of we live everything in a nanosecond. But the reality is in the medical field, it takes forever to get anything done. And Trump said we'll have a vaccine or two by the end of the year, and people said that was impossible.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the pace of medical innovation has been forever changed. 3 months. January 11th is when they got the sequence of this virus. By March 16th, 2 months later, shots were going into arms as part of these clinical trials. That pace, it typically takes years to really get these vaccines approved. It'll be done within a year. So that is worth celebrating, and now we have some early data to be very optimistic about.
Yeah, and that's great. And the reasons it matters is we have Moderna, we have Pfizer. Well, guess what? Pfizer is fast-tracking, and there's even better news to their already great news.
Now that it's proven to be 95% effective in...
95%. Remember, it started out at 90.
Now that it's proven to be 95% effective in preventing coronavirus infection, with the only notable adverse effect being fatigue, the vaccine from Pfizer and BioNTech is expected to be fast-tracked for approval by the Food and Drug Administration. The companies say they're prepared to crank up production of millions of doses immediately upon receiving the FDA's green light.
That's great. And that's the money that Trump thought enough where he said, well, let's buy all the doses we need and we'll just pre-buy them and we'll give them the money. And if it doesn't work, then, hey, you know what? But if it does work, we can get back out there living our lives faster. So I'm going to give Trump and Pence an attaboy. The scientists, the doctors, the technology, tons of attaboys. They got all the stars you can put on their exams. But if we blame Trump for everything, don't we have to give him some kudos as well? And the sad thing is people will say, no, you don't. You don't have to, because he can only be at fault, and that's where you're wrong. You're wrong. I have not been a fan of the way he's handled this. And I'm a little bit different. And maybe you guys are a little bit like me. Maybe you're not. I accept personal responsibility. I do. In my behavior. So I look around. I don't need the government to tell me I need to wear a mask. Some of you do. I don't need the government to tell me in something that's very contagious that you want the information. And the suggestions are fine because of their information and their understanding of it's better. But I don't need to be forced to. But I also realize in the world that we live right now, which is there's states. States have their rights. That how your governor acting is far more important than what the federal government does. The federal government is the one that everybody turns to as the end-all to be-all, when the reality is California's locked down because of Gavin Newsom. Oregon's locked down because of Katie Brown. Jay Inslee in Washington State, Murphy, Cuomo, New York, New Jersey, right? DeSantis said, you know what? We're going to let things lie. Abbott's been a little bit of both. Out here, Doug Ducey hasn't mandated anything. But at the end of the day, we are skirting personal responsibility. And we're handing too much responsibility over to the government and asking them to almost force us to do something that, as a person who's a grown-ass adult, I'll make my own decisions. Now, I'm not going to put anybody else in harm's way, and I understand that we have to protect the vulnerable. But too often we spend more time protecting the stupid. I don't want to protect the stupid. Do you? Do you want to protect the stupid? I don't. My uncle, who's my best friend, and he is my business partner, he's nutritionally overachieved. He'll be the first one to admit it. He's had a few health issues over the last couple months. And everybody's like, you're super vulnerable. And he reminds everybody, my poor choices shouldn't be a problem for you and how you live your life. And I thought that's very real. That is very real. And I think when we look back at this, one of the things that we need to take away is we need to, as a nation and as individuals, look at ourselves and say, did I handle situations right? Did I make them responsible? If my grandmother lives with me and she is, by the way, I have no grandparents left. My grandfather died 2 weeks ago. But he was at the end of his life and he had dementia and he had a lot of other issues. He had Huntington's disease. But if my grandfather was living with me and in relatively okay health, but he had some underlying conditions, do you know what I would do? I would make personal choices that would protect him, knowing that this thing spreads easily. We've taken all that away. We want government to solve those problems, and it's stupid. And then we scream, well, we need lockdowns. We need lockdowns. We need this. We need that. Government, tell me. And I hear a lot of people. My partner on my other show, my local show, he's all about mask mandates. He's all about these things. And it's shown. What is it shown? According to the latest study from, Human Nature Behavior, which is pretty, I'm not on their subscriber list if that's what you're asking, but they're pretty well thought of, that says that lockdowns in many cases don't do anything and may even, instead of preventing the spread, may cause more of it. Well, that's impossible.
Biden's talking more about a lockdown. This is absolutely why he's going to be a terrible president if we get him. He's going to ruin the country. Lockdowns don't work. And in fact, all of the evidence on mandatory masks show that they don't work either. There's about 10 different countries or venues, maybe 20, that instituted mandatory masks. And every one of them, to a T, the infection rate or the COVID rate went up after the mask mandate.
Look, do they work? Now, if you ask me, right now I have an Arizona Cardinals mask that we got from our promotions team. I wear it because it's comfortable. Do I think it stops anything? Probably not. Not to the level that, it may make people feel good, but it's not the N95 mask, right? Like, can we be honest there? So, yes, do masks work? The right mask. But if you're at Old Navy and you're in line and you look down and you're like, oh, my God, I love that. That's the coolest thing ever. That's probably not a mask that's going to stop a lot of things. It's a fashion mask. It is. The science say that it can work. It can. But not these. It may work a little bit. Well, that's enough. But it's not enough to stop all of the spread that's going on. And when you're finding out now that a good portion of the spread that's taking place is in the home, what do we go and do from there? At the end of the day, producer Phil, remind everybody about nature.
Nature will mess you up.
Will mess you up.
This is just showing that, man, really, all of these mitigation strategies, washing your hands, staying 6 feet apart, they really don't work, frankly. Virus is insidious. It does what it's going to do. The only thing that's going to stop it is either enough immunity among individuals in the community or a vaccine. But this idea that we're going to have to stay inside and, Cuomo and all these people saying we can't have Thanksgiving and we can't see other people, it's ridiculous. It's wrongheaded. It's not based in science. And all of the data actually contradicts that man is doing anything to stop this virus at this point.
At some point in time, you realize that nature's doing what nature does. And Fauci said it, that the virus will do its thing. Now, we can try to prevent it. We could try to hold it off. We could social distance, which I think out of anything, the social distancing is the thing that probably works the absolute best, because the less you're in contact with human beings, the less likely you are to get it. In saying all of that, that's not the kind of species we are. Human interaction is important, and we're talking about going on 8-9 months now where human interaction has been lessened, and we're starting to see the fatigue of it. But I'm also starting to see a lot of people just say, you know what, I've heard so many contradictory things thrown at me that I just going to do the best I can, but I'm not going to allow you to go all California or Gretchen Whitmer. Now, California, wearing masks outside your home is mandatory in California. Persons who are working in an office or a room alone, you have to. This is the dumbest thing in the world. This is idiotic and stupid. It's virtue signaling on a level of health that is dumb. This is what's happening. They're replacing what they think sounds good with common sense. I'm in a room alone. I have to wear a mask. I'm going to give a hard pass on that. Appreciate it. Come on. I think when we look back, we'll say, well, Trump, I didn't like the way he handled it, but he wasn't all wrong. And the vaccine did come on his watch. And maybe we overreacted and bought every piece of toilet paper, even though we knew the second time around explosive diarrhea was not part of the symptoms. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Although producer Anthony told us during the break one of the new symptoms that we shall not repeat. Just know this in your grundle area. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. Tweet at us, text the program. The holidays are here. HelloFresh has a Black Friday sale going on right now. You're going to save $90 off plus get free shipping. Now, if you've not tried HelloFresh, it's America's #1 meal kit, and it's like, I call it the food puzzle. You choose what you want, low calorie, vegetarian, family friendly. It's sent directly to you, contact free. You've got the inside. You've got, all the chefs put together, 22 chef curated recipes every week. And what happens is you take it out and say, well, tonight we're going to have this. It's that simple. You've got the recipe card. You can read it, or it's even got pictures. You put it in, you cook it within about 20 minutes to 30 minutes. You've got food on the table. Takes out the headache of trying to plan, standing in front of the refrigerator. It is simple. It is easy. So easy, I can do it. You save big, too. 40% versus shopping at the grocery store, and very little food waste because it's portioned perfectly. Go to HelloFresh.com. Take advantage of their Black Friday deal going on right now. Use code Benson90. Benson90, save $90 off and get free shipping. HelloFresh.com, promo code Benson90. HelloFresh.com, promo code Benson90. Chad Benson Show.
Check out our Chad Benson Show Facebook page where you can hang out or hang your grievances out to dry. This is Chad Benson.
It wasn't surprising that President Trump on Tuesday fired his administration's top cybersecurity official. Sources say Chris Krebs expected to be let go after he pushed back publicly and forcefully against the president's false claims of election fraud. Krebs, the director of the DHS Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, said the 2020 election was the, quote, most secure in American history. Krebs said there's no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was compromised in any way. The president tweeted Tuesday that Krebs' statement was highly inaccurate. Twitter put a warning label on that claim.
Yeah, so they fired him. Not a shocker. He knew when he came out and said it. And this is all about the Dominion voting service or whatever it is. And the machines, and magically 2 million votes disappeared. And people like, well, it happened. I'm like, can you prove that it happened? No. You can't. Now, supposedly, soon, they're going to do what? They're going to, Rudy Giuliani has kind of hinted around that they are going to have some sort of back look into this thing. I don't know if that's true or not, but if you can prove it, then do it. But if you can't, we need to move on. It's pretty simplistic at this point in time. You didn't like the answer you got. The guy gave it to you, and that was that. If you have a chance to prove this in court, and I'm not talking much about it anymore because at this point in time, I'm moving on because I believe that on the 20th of January, barring anything insane, that Joe Biden will be president of the United States. And then we move on and we move forward and we go from there. Shouldn't be that hard to do. If you have all this proof, then you should be inside of all of these courts. And not only should you be inside all of these courts, you should be winning easily. And I haven't seen that happen. And you fired this guy because you didn't like what he said. It's old. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Like hearing from every single one of you. Check out Chad Benson Show TV. Love it. It's our YouTube channel. Try to add stuff to it as much as we possibly can. We're a little small band of renegades here, so bear with us. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
It's happening again. Lockdowns. People are panicking. Remember what Trump said? We don't panic. I mean, Trump said, I didn't want to tell the American people because I didn't want to panic people. And then Biden's like, Americans don't panic. And then I'm like, well, every piece of toilet paper is bought up. So obviously we have some issues with panicking. That's very real. We do. We've got some issues. And we're at it again. Seeing a rise and a spike in the COVID. We're starting to freak out. So what does that mean? Apparently, we got to buy up everything, including toilet paper.
Paper towels and toilet paper are once again hard to find. In Valley stores, the paper products aisle is once again looking bare and the cleaning product shelves are sparse.
It was, in a way, expected.
Arizonans starting to buy up items at the end of October, following a trend seen elsewhere in the country. Hitendra Chaturvedi, a professor of supply chain management at ASU, says the three main reasons why: COVID cases going up, stocking up for winter, and the election.
Yeah, stocking up for winter, which I didn't know we had to do. I never had before this winter, I've never had any issues. Producer Phil, have you ever had any issues getting any of these things before winter?
No,
ever?
Not at all.
No. There you go. Producer Phil, both of us, separate sides of the country. So this must be something that is a phenomenon elsewhere. But we do have some issues again, and I've seen people posting pictures on Instagram and everywhere else, Snapchat, I don't even know what's out there, what all the stuff that's out there of empty store shelves.
This is a much shorter term shortages that we are going to be seeing.
Chaturvedi says the supply is there. It just takes time to get it back on the shelf.
The companies are better prepared. They're working hard and they have more capability, but we just need to be careful that we should not hoard for the next 6 months.
Yeah. Don't hoard for the next 6 months. Don't do that. But people panic. But no, that's impossible, Chad. People panic. Remember, all the stuff we're doing. Let me remind you guys, okay? So what we have was we're shutting everything down again in a lot of states, requiring people to wear masks. Some states are going so far as to say if you're in a room by yourself, you need to wear a mask, which is the dumbest thing ever. But we'll let it be with California. On a disease that has a 99.7% survival rate if you're under the age of 55. If you're under the age of 20, it's basically 100% unless you have mitigating factors, right? You've got underlying health conditions and if you're over the age of 55, your chances of surviving this are like 98.9%. So soak it up for a second. Facts matter. They do. The difference is the spread of this thing. It spreads in a much faster and quicker way. So do we panic? Of course we panic.
The recommendation is to buy for only a week or two instead of for months at a time.
You're taking it away from the people that buy week to week.
Mark Miller, president of the Arizona Food Marketing Alliance, says stores here will start to take action to keep product on the shelf.
You're going to start to see more limitations of 1 or 2 per purchase so that we can make sure that we have enough for all the customers that come out.
The bottom line,
just don't panic.
We do panic. We do. It's kind of the thing that we do. We panic. I don't know why. Some people just do. And partially because we're lazy and we're uninformed. We don't want to do the things that we need to do to be informed because that takes effort. And as we all know, effort is not everybody's strongest suit. So we ignore, and it's frustrating. I get it. We just got to be smarter in the way that we come at things. We do. I would love to see that. And we need to start making things less political. I'd like to think that our show, look, I a lot of the people that you guys, will tell me you should be more like this person or that person. And I laugh and I know those people. They know me. Some of them are my friends. We have different political beliefs. Some of you have no idea what that person's like in real life. And that you're part of the show. I like to think we're pretty level-headed here. You don't choose a side. No. I choose the side of truth, and I'm an American. I didn't know that being an American meant I had to choose a side. I choose America. I choose the truth. I choose facts over feelings. Doesn't mean feelings don't matter. Doesn't mean we can't put things in much better perspective when we look at everything and understand that there's feelings and not everything is black and white, and most of the time it's gray. But we've got to stop living in the edges of the extreme world. Case in point, my man, Larry Hogan, governor of Maryland. Love what he said here.
A large majority of Americans are thoroughly convinced that our political system is fundamentally broken, that we as a people are tragically divided, and that Washington is completely dysfunctional. Most of us are sick and tired of the angry, divisive politics. Americans believe in civility and pragmatism. They think straight talk is more valuable than empty rhetoric. These are the things that my party is going to have to focus on if we want to win national elections again.
Yeah, but everybody should be. We should focus on. I don't need rhetoric. Just tell me what it is. Tell me the truth about something, and I can deal with it. Don't beat around the bush. Don't give me any crazy talk. And the thing I love about what Larry Hogan said here is the empty rhetoric. Because we get so much of that now. What makes you feel good? What do you want me to tell you, and I will tell it to you? Does that make you feel good? Well, it does make me feel good. Oh, okay. Does it mean it's the truth? No, but it made me feel good. Do you want the truth, or do you want to feel good? We're the tired majority, the exhausted majority. We are, you know what we are? We are that word that matters the most, the majority. The majority of Americans sit a little center left or a little center right. That's the reality. We're a little bit, and I'll say, I would say a majority of Americans sit a little bit center right. But they're not extremist. The people on the left, or the Democrats, I don't even call them on the left, the Democrats and Republicans, those people who are your family, your friends, your nieces, your nephews, your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, even that crazy uncle. You know, the crazy uncle you can't stand because he supported Donald Trump and he's a little bit out there, but he's also the guy that helped you when you needed it. Yeah, those people. Most of us, a little bit this, a little bit that. But we all kind of want the same thing. And we're told because of the media that there's all this stuff happening and how much we're into this civil war. Remember the civil war that was going to happen? What happened to that? Oh, yeah, it didn't happen because nobody really wants to. Now, there's a civil cultural war going on. But you know how you avoid that and stay away from it? You just don't go online and you don't engage.
Americans are not as divided as our politics and social media would suggest. The problem is not the American people. The problem is that politicians think the only way to get elected is to feed the extremes, to fire up the base, and that the only way to govern is through winner-take-all combat. The extreme voices that dominate social media, cable news, and talk radio only represent a tiny sliver of Americans on the far left or the far right.
Yeah. Tiny sliver. Tiny. I have people that listen to me on the left, and I value their opinion. I have people that listen to me on the right. I value their opinion. There are extremes on both sides, and you can't have conversations with them because they're not interested in conversations. They're interested in yelling at you. They're interested in trying to bully you. They're not interested in actually anything other than that. They want to be right. You know, there's an old saying, would you rather be right or would you rather be rich? I'll take rich because more often than not, you think you're right. The reality is you just want to feel you're right. Listen to this.
Over 70% of the rest of us belong to the exhausted majority. People who are fed up with politics.
That's us.
Who feel forgotten by both political parties and ignored by Washington. Most Americans want the same thing. Leaders who will work together to find bipartisan solutions. No one of us has all the answers or all the power. They want a discourse that tolerates contrary views among a diverse citizenry without turning political adversaries into enemies or doubting their patriotism.
And that's the truth. I want to be able to have somebody, I want to be able to have a conversation with somebody and not have this authoritarian, insane group of people that live in the interwebs that want to attack you and then want to try to destroy your lives, because rather than actually have a discussion, they want to destroy you. Because a lot of times, and everybody, you guys understand this because you're smart. I tell everybody, look, I joke around. The reality is I believe I got the smartest, most well-balanced audience in talk radio because I've got people from all walks of life. I've got people who are balanced across the board in many different things. And yeah, I do have super right at times and I have super left. But the reality is by and large, most of you are open-minded and don't want to see people shut down. Don't want to see people on colleges' campuses canceled. Don't want to see somebody who sent a tweet 12 years ago canceled for something that you took wrong. But the harder that people fight with you over something, and by that I mean not even fight with you, all caps, yell, try to get you fired, is because you've usually presented something that has come at their identity and questioned their belief system, and you've done it so in such a way that there's truth behind it. And when that happens is when people fight the hardest, because not only are they fighting you, they're fighting their belief system, and that's a tough thing to win. But the cancel culture, that's got to stop.
They want a government that protects the vulnerable without dictating how we live our lives. They want a strong America that stands with its allies and for freedom in the world without taking for granted the sacrifices required for it. They want to stand together with their neighbors and feel proud of their country once again.
Yeah. I'm proud of my country, but I'm frustrated with leaders and individuals in this country who are in it not only for themselves, but are also putting themselves in positions where their whole job is to divide us. And you could talk about Trump all you want, but let me tell you something. Very few people I know of on the right has ever tried to cancel a lot of people, but I get it all the time. If you bring up anything, we had Abigail Shrier on about a month or so ago with her new book, which, by the way, like Target took it down, then they put it back up, talking about gender. And people want to destroy her lives, all based on facts and interviews with thousands of people in the gender issues of transgender. That is not a world that we should be living in. We should be living in a world where we can have open dialogue and conversation. We can disagree, but we don't have that anymore. We have too many people who want to destroy people's lives, and that is ridiculous. The exhausted majority, we actually need to have a bigger voice because we are the loudest. Unfortunately, we've been the quietest. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Your Twitter, tweet at us. CarShield gives you 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free. while your car is in the shop. You choose that there shop. What do? They get them paid directly. So this is what you get with CarShield. Let's just say you've got a newer car, right? It's got 12, 13,000 miles on it. You bought it used. You have a warranty for the engine, but you got electronics, and none of that stuff is covered. They've got a plan that's right for you. Plans start as low as $99 a month. No contracts, no obligations, no long-term. It's great. Other side of things, maybe your car's a little bit older. You've got no warranty for anything. You're worried about the engine. You're worried about the transmission. They've got a plan that starts right for you. Find out what's right for you. Be specific. Call them. Say, hey, look, this is what I'm looking for. And I tell you what, if you understand what it's like to have a rental car where your car's in the shop, that to me is I tell everybody, that's the saving grace of some of these things. Man, you get that rental car, no ride sharing. Oh, that's amazing. 800-665-2157. 800-665-2157. Use code Benson to save 10%. Or go to carshield.com. Carshield.com. Use that code Benson to save 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
Hashtag me too. Hashtag immigration reforms. Hashtag help. I'm trapped in a hashtag factory and I can't get out. The Chad Benson Show.
Hey, how do you identify? Oh, asexual. What does that mean? Well, for me personally, it just means that I have no desire to be in a sexual relationship with someone. Oh, I get it. I'm waiting for marriage too. No, see, you're waiting. I don't ever want to. Like, there's no desire. Yours is a choice to wait. Mine isn't a choice. I just don't want to.
You can dress how you want. You can look how you please. It don't make you any less gay or bi or trans or lesbian, pan or asexual today.
It's the new thing. Everybody's got to have a label. Everybody. How about you're just a human? What's wrong with that? And this is part of the whole thing of the intersectionality and all the stuff that goes on with race and how we've got to do this or it's got to be that. You've got all these new books out about, your whiteness and this, hey, how about you're just a human being and you're all plodding along and just like I am, and we're all just trying to do the best we possibly can, and some will fare better and they'll be a little bit luckier. Others will work harder and outwork everybody and be super successful. Some will be a little bit more unlucky, and some people will just make horrible choices. What's wrong with that? Just being a human being. But Chad, you just don't get it. No, I do get it. You always say I don't get it. Spoken like, everybody needs to we need to stop the labels. I thought it was the whole thing, with us becoming, the civil rights movement was to not be. But then what we've got is this crazy world of intersectionality now where everybody wants to outdo each other, being some sort of, it's like a superhero thing. Oh, you're a trans. Oh, wow. You're trans and you're black. Whoa. It's the oppressed Olympics. And I'm this or I'm that, and I have a special letter. How about you're just who you are? Shouldn't be a big deal. I'm going to treat you like I treat everybody else. With kindness and respect, unless you're an a-hole, then I don't want anything to do with you. And I don't care. But here's something for you. You could be a white dude and a good person, and you could be a trans person and an a-hole. No, it's No, it's true. Because you're a human being. Everybody needs to have labels. It's crazy. It is. So now we've got New York State's got their new licenses that are coming out with special labels on that as to make sure that everybody has their X-gender driver's license. What the hell does that even mean? Goodness to me. So stupid. What would you like to be called? And I'm not going to call you he, her, him, her. What's your name? What's the name that you go by? You go by Linda? I'm going to call you Linda. You go by Steve? I'm going to call you Steve. But you get one. That's it. Tomorrow you come in, you got a new name. I'm calling you at that point, whatever I want to call you. You get one. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet and text the program. We got you over the hump. We do it all the time. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day and a great night. Night, Jack.
This This is The Chad Benson Show.